Welcome back to Ultimate Movie Recaps. Thanks for supporting us. Today I am showing a 2021 Russian children's drama film titled A Dog Named Palma. Watch out for the spoilers, just enjoy and take care. The film opens in 1977, showing a middle-aged man named Igor walking into the airport with his dog Palma in a basket. Palma is a female dog who will be traveling with her owner. She listens intently to every sound and smells everything she comes into contact with. He proceeds to board the plane with Palma after having his passport examined. When he is ready to board, the air hostess inquires about the dog's health certificates. Igor looks for it in his pockets but fails to retrieve it. He begs the air hostess to allow her on the aircraft since he has urgent work the next day. After hearing his story, the flight hostess suggests that he go to the airport doctor to get his paperwork cleared as quickly as possible. Then, Igor takes Palma to the doctor to check for any infections. However, Palma has an infection inside her ears, so the doctor checks her carefully and refuses to give him the approval certificate. Igor even attempts to bribe the doctor, but the man is adamant about his decision. Igor returns to the airport terminal, sweating and confused. He meets with the air hostess, Nina, at the airport terminal and tells her everything. He says that he is the only person who can take care of Palma because no one else is there to look after her. Nina agrees to let Palma inside when she notices Igor's eyes are wet, but the airport manager then shows up and refuses to let the dog inside without the paperwork. Igor is devastated and feels obligated to leave his beloved companion behind. He drags Palma's cart away from the runway and lets her go. He then embraces her for the final time and apologizes for what he is going to do. Palma likewise looks back at her master lovingly after some time, but when he throws away her favorite ball, Palma runs to retrieve the ball. Igor heads into the plane as she is away, and when Palma notices him leaving, she drops the ball to the ground and begins running towards him. Everyone in the plane can see her chasing after them, but Igor does his best to ignore her. Because Palma was in the way of the plane on the runway, the pilots had to turn off the engine for a short time. They restart it after she goes away and take off the flight. Palma follows the plane until it disappears into the clouds. The airport guards later receive a complaint about the dog and proceed to capture it. Palma flees from them and encounters Tikhanov, a caretaker at the hangar. She then hides behind a plane as the authorities approach Tikhanov and ask about the dog, but he lies in order to protect her. The scene then moves to a little kid named Kolya, who is seeing through the window of a flying plane. One of the passengers is a high-ranking minister named Ivan Lisko, who is apprehensive of landings and takeoffs. Vyacheslav Lazarev, Kolya's father, is commanding the aircraft and is concerned for his child, asks a flight hostess whether his son is asleep. Tikhanov, on the other hand, develops a bond with Palma and provides her with some food. When she is about to eat it, she hears the sound of a plane and begins racing towards the runway. The pilots are preparing to land the plane but are forced to turn back when they spot a dog on the runway. Lisko is confused during the deviation and feels shamed in front of the foreign delegates on board. The plane manages to land, and Lisko immediately chastises the airport manager for the act. Palma searches through each passenger exiting the plane for her master, Igor. The airport manager, on the other hand, gets enraged with the dog and demands that she be sent out of the airport as quickly as possible. The security team eventually captures the dog and confines her inside the bus. Knowing that the cops are about to kill the dog, Kolya gets off the plane and decides to save it by boarding the bus and rescuing it. The disturbed security is about to hit the little guy, but then Lazarev arrives and tells them that he is his son. Later, the airport manager begins chastising pilot Lazarev for failing to land properly and releasing the dog from its confines by his son. The pilot tells her that he recently lost his wife and is having trouble thinking clearly. Additionally, he says that his constant worry about his son may have interfered with his ability to make decisions. After listening to Lazarev, the manager attempts to soothe him by informing him that he will have his international flying license in a month. Lazarev is pleased with the news. Palma returns to Tikhanov with the red ball in her mouth. He spreads a mat in the shade to allow her to rest. Following that, we see Kolya arrive at a motel with his father, Lazarev. He is dissatisfied with his father and plans to flee at night. He arrives at the airport and plans to purchase a return ticket to his hometown. The staff refuses to issue him a ticket and requests that the security officer inquire about the child's parents. Kolya spots a family and pretends to be one of them in order to board the plane. The air hostess discovers his deed and alerts the security officer, but Kolya flees before he can be apprehended, and he is spotted hiding inside the small cabin outside the plane. Palma notices him and begins barking at him before the security guard notices them. Kolya exits the cabin and rushes alongside Palma. She leads him to her hiding place, where the two spend the night. The next morning, Lazarev discovers his son is missing and becomes concerned because he is planning to submit a police report. He receives a phone call from Tikhonov, informing him that his son is fine. Lazarev arrives at the airport and discovers his son sleeping with Palma. He tries to drag his son back home, but Palma intervenes and splits them. She barks at Lazarev, and Tikhonov instructs him to get to his flight and assures him that he will look after his son. Once Lazarev leaves, Tikhonov makes some food for Kolya and serves it to him. He also warns him that entering the plane's cabin is unsafe. Nina, the flight attendant, shows up and tells Tikhonov that drinking coffee is bad for his health. She is revealed to be Tikhonov's daughter. During their conversation, Palma runs towards the runway, where a plane has just landed. Kolya approaches Palma, who is scanning the persons exiting the plane for her master. He stands by her and tells her that he too is alone because his mother abandoned him forever. Looking at the deplorable state of Palma, the next day Kolya tries to find Igor's address from the airport ticket counter. But the woman behind the desk refuses to give him the information because it is confidential. Meanwhile, Palma approaches another landing plane, and this time she sees a man who resembles Igor. She follows him to the terminal, but the security guard spots her on the way. Palma, on the other hand, enters the terminal and discovers that the man is not Igor. The security personnel are after her and preparing to catch her with a net. Kolya distracts the guards just in time, allowing Palma to flee. The terminal faces significant property destruction as a result of Palma's run. Kolya and Palma were able to escape security and hide in a safe location. The ticket counter lady approaches them and gives them Igor's address. She also shows them how to get away from the airport. The scene shifts to the airport manager, who becomes enraged at Lazarev as a result of the damage done by Palma and his son at the terminal. She bribes Lazarev, assuring him that if he assists in the capture of Palma, he will get his international flying license authorized. Lazarev accepts the plan and proceeds to the location where Palma and Kolya are, along with the dog catchers. Nina and Tikhonov are also present and attempt to stop the dog catchers. They are unable to stop them, and Palma is captured and put into the vehicle. Kolya is heartbroken as he sees Palma being taken away from him. Finally, Nina passes the letter Kolya had written for Igor to Lazarev. Lazarev takes out the letter and begins reading it at night. In the letter, he discovers Kolya pleading with Igor to retrieve his beloved companion Palma. He also states that being deserted by loved ones is the most terrible time in anyone's life. Lazarev becomes sad after reading the letter, and he also notices Kolya leaving his room late at night. Lazarev decides to rescue Palma from the custody and resolves to assist his son. They both arrive at the dog shelter, and to their surprise, Nina is already there. They learn that Palma has escaped from custody. Kolya informs them that he knows where to find Palma. They arrive at the airport, and Kolya stands beside the newly arriving jet, looking for Palma. He is disappointed to discover that she is not present. Later, he watches her run towards the plane to gaze at the passengers exiting. Lazarev realizes he must act to assist the poor dog. The next day, Lazarev contacts a news reporter, who photographs Palma and publishes her story on the first page of the newspaper. Because of his actions, the airport manager becomes enraged with Lazarev and informs him that he will never be able to obtain an international license. At that moment, the manager receives a call from the minister, who is interested in using Palma's story as an opportunity to get the attention of the public. He commends Lazarev's work and grants him an international license. Palma becomes an attraction for people arriving at the airport after the news. Palma continues to look for her master at the airport as time passes. A year goes by, and she still hasn't located Igor. Lazarev and Kolya are also seen caring for each other. The minister directs the airport staff to make an enclosure for Palma just off the runway. Kolya feels bad for the dog since the minister is taking advantage of her condition. Palma stops eating anything, and after an examination, the doctor tells that she has depression and will only be able to overcome it if she meets Igor. One night Kolya discovers Palma being very sad while it is pouring heavily. He steps out and tries to drag Palma along with him, but she refuses. Kolya, enraged and hurt, tells her that everyone he loves constantly abandons him. First it was his mother, and now it's Palma. He then removes his jacket and drapes it over her to keep her warm. They both spend the night in the rain together. Palma is more energetic and happy the next morning than she was the night before. Kolya is overjoyed to see her playing and invites her to his house. At home, Lazarev receives a call from the department informing him that Igor has arrived to pick up Palma. Kolya and Palma accompany him to the airport. Kolya refuses to send Palma with Igor since he has acquired feelings for the dog. but Lazarev teaches him that she is someone else's property and that if he truly loves her, he should be able to let her go. Kolya agrees, and as they exit the car, they observe that the minister has summoned several press teams for live coverage of Igor's return in order to gain sympathy for himself. Igor subsequently notices Palma and rushes towards her, eventually reuniting with the dog. Palma approaches him, but she appears uninterested in meeting him. Kolya returns with a sad face and a troubled heart, handing Igor the collar belt of Palma. Lazarev attempts to speak with Igor and demands that he leave Palma, promising him a reasonable sum of money in exchange. Igor explains that he too does not want to take Palma back but is forced to do so by the minister. The minister has threatened to sack him if he does not take Palma. Igor is seen carrying Palma away in the following scene. Palma protests and tries to flee, but she is apprehended by security personnel, who force her to board the plane. However, the pilot of the same plane, Lazarev, refuses to fly the plane at the last minute. The airport manager threatens Lazarev with losing his pilot's license as a result of his actions. Lazarev does not listen to her and opts out of the flight. The manager is forced to appoint another pilot to fly the plane. Meanwhile, one of the air hostesses approaches Igor and requests Palma's medical report in order to allow her to travel on the plane. Igor does not appear to have any medical documentation. The minister becomes enraged with the manager and orders her to allow the plane to take off as quickly as possible. The manager responds that the rules must be obeyed. She also states that she cannot allow Palma to fly on the plane without the medical report. Igor comprehends everything and frees Palma. He admits to the minister that he may have mistaken to identify the dog. In the final scene, Palma runs out of the plane towards Kolya, who is waiting for her outside. They embrace and appear overjoyed to be reunited. This marks the end of the movie. Thanks for watching.